Hello everyone, Ceri the Crafter here, that's C-E-R-I, the Crafter, and I'm here with a swap video. Okay, but I have a bit of a problem about the swap video. Okay, Carol Parker of Oak House Journals kindly invited me to be one of their contributors to their Christmas tag swap. Christmas tags, never a problem. However, in Britain we're having postal strikes. So even though it's only the third week of November currently, I can assure you if I mail this today, it's not going to get there by Christmas. So the person I'm swapping with is someone called Charlotte who lives in America. We've been in conversation with each other and Charlotte has said she'd be happy to receive anything I send. So what I've decided to do, I have a little package here which I'm not going to show you. It's got tags in it. Not going to show it to you because that I want to be a surprise for Charlotte when she actually receives the tags, because she may have seen this video before her tags are up. I have no idea how long it's going to take. I do know recently, well not recently, Gail Augustinelli mailed a journal from America to the UK and it took 6 months to get here. Seriously, I have no idea what's going on with mail. So I thought, right, what am I going to do? So it's meant to be a Christmas tag, so I'm going to revitalize this Christmas paper. Yes, it's cute, but I thought, okay, then at least I know within the tags that I send Charlotte, there's going to be something Christmas, but it's going to be hidden. And what I've decided to do, as I said, I have a selection of my tags here, which I'm sending her as a gift. And I thought I'm going to make a background. And I might, 3, 6, 9, 12, 8. I might cut this into 8 6-inch tags as tag bases and send these to her as well as a little thank you as well because she's missed Christmas. So I'm going to keep this, I want to keep it quite bright. I'm going to use nice bright colours with it. Also, Charlotte has actually let me know that she recycles, repurposes pieces that she finds, and so she's all about saving something old, turning it into someone's new treasure. So I thought, okay, recycling a bit of paper that was supposed to be for Christmas might be a good thing to do. Also, I've dug out some of my old stencils, and these stencils are not stencils that are available, guys. These are ones I made several years ago. I thought, okay, so this is using something that's been sat in my stash, and I'll use that to help me with this as well. And I've got a few found items as well. So I think without anything else, let's get on with this puppy, shall we? So I want to keep it quite light. I want to make sure that it's bright and joyful because I have no idea when this is going to be actually arriving. So I'm thinking more spring and summer. So I'm just putting on here some white acrylic and I'm going to add into that some quinacridone red, which even though it says it's red, to me it looks a little bit brighter than red in my opinion, but and only a little bit, so I think that will give me a kind of a pink colour. Oh, this is going to be a mess, isn't it? I don't normally use these bottles with tips on them. These are a new acquisition because I go through quite a lot of paint and it's more economical to buy the larger sizes than the smaller sizes. But it's going to be a challenge to get used to something new. But, you know, I'm always up for a challenge, right? So I've got pink on there, I've got white on there. I'm going to build. Now I'm just going to use my faithful store card, door card, whichever you've got. And I'm just going to put something onto here. Now, you normally see me do this technique when I'm doing the colour combination requests. This isn't a colour combination request, this is just me wanting to make something special. If that little bit wasn't on there, it'd be even more special. Making this for Charlotte just as a Christmas, just as a part of the swap for our Oak House Journals. And thank you once again, Carol, for inviting me. I'm always up for a swap if time allows. And I thought this was a lovely idea. Carol reached out to a lot of those of us on YouTube who create and actually asked us, and a huge amount of people said yes. I'm so happy for that. So what I'm going to do is in the bottom right hand corner there's either a grey V, or if you can see the description it might say read more. In there I'm actually going to put a link to Carol Parker's channel, which is called Oak House journal. So pop across there, have a look. I'm sure she's going to be sharing more stuff as we go along. It's going to be fun. Okay, so I've got that on there. I think I want to put in something brownish now. Let's see. Something that's, what are we looking for? Right, let's do ochre yellow. Over here, by the way, I've got boxes of my paints and my acrylic paints. Right, now I've got my ceramic tile out, which anyone who knows me, this is my paint palette. I like using this old ceramic tile. I bought it in the clearance aisle of my local hardware store, and I bought it several years ago, probably about 6 years ago now, to be honest with you. And I've got 2 of them, and I use them over and over again, and it washes really well. I wipe it off if I'm using any sort of paste or mediums on it, and it just saves me using plastic paint palettes. So I'm trying to do my own little bit for the planet in my own little way. Right, I'm just going to tidy up a little bit of excess paint, but I'm going to leave that bit of paint there because you never know what I'm going to use it for afterwards. But I don't want it contaminating anything else. Okay, and I think it's time I wiped this off a little bit as well. So let's see. So I've got some pink down there. I've got teal down there. What am I talking about, teal? Well, actually, why don't I go with teal? Maybe that was the universe telling me I need to put teal on it. Right, let's have a look and see what I've got. I've got this. Now, this is one of my mixed up paint bottles. In other words, when bottles are coming to their end, or I've got tubes of paint where there's only a little tiny bit left, I tend to just empty light colours into the same bottle. And that bottle just keeps being refilled and used and refilled and used. It's just, I find that a very useful way to work. So I'm trying to invoke sort of a nice spring summery feel with this. And I'm starting with some quite dark colours, intentionally dark colours, because I want to cover up a lot of what's going on in the background. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to put some lighter colours over the top. You may note I tend to turn my paper a lot, and that's because I have found through habit I tend to work in one direction only. So if I work in one direction, then my whole page will just be a one direction page, but by turning it, it means that it becomes a 360 page. So I'm just going to use up the rest of this on here. I don't mind if it's overly teal. It's one of my favourite colours, and hopefully it's one of Charlotte's favourite colours as well. Well, if it isn't, it's going to be now, Charlotte. Right, time to give this a bit of a wipe off. This isn't a filthy cloth, it's just stained with paint. I tend to use cloths instead of baby wipes. Personal choice. I mean, I do use baby wipes sometimes for creating backgrounds, but I tend to just have a couple of these on the go, and then once a year I just buy 2 new face cloths, and my local inexpensive store sells them at 50p a time. So that's probably only about £1 or $1, and I've got new face cloths every year, and that's, I can tell you, £1 is a lot cheaper than the amount I was spending when I was buying wet wipes and baby wipes every month. So personal choice, absolutely no problem with anyone using whatever they want. It's just me and the way I work. Right, so I think we're at the point now where I can come in and lighten this up a bit. I think I'm going to reach for some chalk paint. I've got a white chalk paint. Now what I'm hoping is going to happen with this white is as the paints underneath, unclick that, are going to still be slightly damp. I'm hoping that it picks up some of those, drags through them, and then actually makes the colours lighter. So, and gives us new combinations. Now I am going on quite thin with this because I'm not trying to obliterate the background that I've already created, and as it's a chalk paint is, in my opinion, opaque. So I'm just trying to give myself bad English, Griffiths, very bad English. A little bit of brown over that bit there. So just going to come in and put little bits of this on. This is a great way to use up 12 by 12s, guys, as well. just make them into something else. I mean, you can always collage over a 12 by 12. I mean, if you're watching this channel, I shouldn't need to say that because you're probably a creative person anyway. However, sometimes there's a newbie on the block who may not have heard of that before. So I do recycle, not recycle, I don't recycle because I repurpose. That's the word I'm looking for. So, right, I think that's going in the direction I like. Clean off some of that off there. Yes, I think we're getting there. So, as you can see, it's a bit of a quick process too. I mean, already I've turned that into a different look entirely. Let's give this a little bit of a one. I don't know why I'm trying to keep this paint mat clean. I've been using this paint mat for a considerable amount of time now. It's never going to be clean and black and pristine again because it's just never going to be that way. Make sure I don't knock that tile off the side of my table. So I quite like that as it is. However, we know it's not going to stay like that. Right, I need to consider now what do I want to put onto here as far as the first layers. Now, if I'm going to put layers onto something, I normally start with something larger in the background and work smaller as I come forward. And by that I mean the background is, this is the background, the next layer, then the next layer, then the next layer, and they progressively get smaller and finer in detail. And usually, I say usually because it's a bit of a caveat, usually I start with paler colours and work to more dramatic or darker or more contrasting colours towards the top. So right, I'm looking at this, there's still one or two little areas where I can see holly and robins, and I need to address that now because from here on in it's not the big process, it's a smaller process. So I think, just clean that off my plate so I don't have white there, I think I want to come in and just put a little something on there that will cover it up. Right, what have I got that's... Right, I've got a matte pink here. And we had pink originally. I quite like pink with things like terracotta and teal. So I think a little bit of that is never going to go wrong here. I'm just going to bring in a little bit, see if I can just cover up the edges enough so that where things are showing, they're not showing as much. I've got a little bit down here as well. I mean, it's no secret. I mean, everyone's going to know it's made from a Christmas paper, but there's no need to see a visual reminder all the way through, is there? So, am I still in shot? I'm not in shot. Sorry about that, guys. I swear, the recording arm for my iPad never changes. I mean, I don't move it, it's attached, and that's just the way it is. However, every time I record, it's weird. It's different. So I'm constantly having to try and match up through my video to make sure that I'm not cutting you guys off. Okay, I think that's okay. Let's have a little bit of a closer look. So as you can see now, I've got a pleasant, I mean, I would leave this as a background, but I know that I need to make it a little more special. So what I'm going to do is going to hit pause for you for 2 seconds. I'm going to put this back in its jar because I remember I've got a screw top lid. I can put this one back. Bit of a clean up of the decks. Get this dried because I don't want to lay stencils and stuff on top if it's still wet because they'll stick. So bear with me, guys. We're back in 2 seconds. So here we go, just a couple of minutes with the hairdryer. It's not fully dried all the way through to the back, I know that, but it's dry enough for me to work on. I'm not going to get hung up on that. Now, as you saw, the back has a pattern on it, and it's going to get messy with me because that's the way I work. Also, I don't believe this is actually firm enough for making tags from anyway, so I will be backing these tags after we finish. My plan is to make this, get it dry, then I'm going to cut it into the 8 tags in front of you, put the corners or the angles on them, and then that's all I'm going to do on screen. Then afterwards, I'll just back them. I usually back them with things like a manila file folder or maybe coffee dye paper, something like that. And then they'll be winging their way to Charlotte. So there you go. Right, so I want to start adding something into the background now. And I did want to put in something that was this. Basically, this is a stencil I designed a very long time ago, and I've used it once or twice, probably not as much as I thought, because I'd like to have had smaller raindrops instead of bigger ones, and I think that's the reason I didn't use it as much. So I think what I'm going to do is I want to put some areas of this within it. Now, I have to remember this is going to be cut in half and then each half cut in four. And I don't want the whole thing to look identical. So I'm going to concentrate in putting things in areas where it may catch the edge one or two or none at all of the stuff on here. I just want to add some details. So I'm thinking about putting something lighter into this. Now, I'm quite thinking I'd like to put something like a pearl into this one so it catches the light. I did have a sage somewhere. It's the sage pearl. No, I think I'm going to use this one. It's frosted mint, and I'm going to use this just because I want this to be subtle in the background. I do not need it to be overpowering. And to put it on, I'm just using, I buy big sponges and I cut them up with a pair of scissors into squares and I use them to sponge on my colours. So I'm just going to put some of this down. Now I know this is not very opaque, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pair it up with another colour that I can put onto here. I know it seems like quite a dominant colour, but I don't think it's going to be in the long run. I just want areas that might just catch the eye when I'm doing this. So just going to take my sponge, dab on, dab off as much as I like. I don't want too much on here because if I put too much on here, what's going to happen is it's going to go under the stencil, and that's not my intent. Am I in shot? I am in shot. Yay, score one for Griffiths. So, and then once I've got some of this on, I'm going to pick up the tiniest bit of the green and just catch patches of this, just so that there's a bit of shading within what I've already put on there. And peel it off. See, I've just got subtlety there, and I'm going to do that over here. This time I'm going to do it slightly different. Actually, I'm going to use a different part of the stencil so it doesn't look identical. And this time I'm going to put the green in first, and then I'm going to put the pearl over the top. So just giving myself some variety. Now, in the end game, I'm going to pick up some of the pearl to go over the top, as I said. Now, in the end of this, whether these are seen or not doesn't bother me. I know they're part of the layers, part of the interest that's going to be on this page. And I think I just want a few down here just to finish off. Can you see me? You can see me. Right, come in here, just a few of these. Any paint left on this palette after videoing, I'll just use on up in things like my ATCs or my postcards. I'll just use it up then because I know that this isn't going to take us forever to do. So it's a good way of utilising my paints. So just coming in, knocking that colour just back slightly. Right, this sponge could go into the wash if you wanted, or it could go in the bin if you don't want. I'm going to leave it there just to remind myself that's the one I used. This can go to one side to dry. And as you can see now, I've just added some really playful little elements into the back of this. I'm happy with that. That's cool. Now I'm going to have to come in and give this a little bit of a dry, just because I need to lay another stencil over the top. And unfortunately, that's how this video is going to go for the next couple of segments. But forgive me, it only takes a few seconds for me to do, a few minutes for me to do it. It takes 2 seconds to do a transition. So have another slurp of that cup of coffee and I'll be back in 2 seconds. So here I'm back again. Now I know you probably wouldn't object to having a hairdryer on here, but you know, it would literally be as boring as watching paint dry. I'm not going to put you through that. Let's just let that go, shall we? Right, I want to put in a little bit of yellow into this now, purely because, remember, I'm trying to think spring, summer, that sort of feel to it. So I'm going to go with my white, a little bit of white there. I'm not sure how much you're going to see on screen. Oh, just on screen by the looks of it. I'm going to add a bit of this yellow to it because this is a nice, oh, that's a nasty bit of yellow. This is a nice yellow and I like it. I'm looking to make a palish yellow because I don't want yellow to be dominant, but I do want yellow. Oh, it's the wrong one. I'm picking up another sponge. I'm not going to use the stencil this time. I'm just going to create this yellow colour very pale, and I'm going to look for areas that have got dominant straight lines, and in those areas I'm just going to dab this up and down until I get a really nice blended look. And this just adds to the fact that we've then got areas of light and dark and shade. When I put future pieces over this, then it's going to really pump those up. If I go over some of the raindrops, that doesn't bother me, because what that does is it pushes them slightly into the background. Again, I'm going to turn, because it's easy for me to turn because I can get to this piece here. So for me, this piece here is a real, it pulls the focus, and I don't want it to pull the focus. I want it to be blended out into the background. Now, using the credit card or door key will create those lines, as will using a palette knife sometimes. So I always try to make part of my process, like here, removing these lines. Now, this colour that I'm using is progressively getting whiter because I'm running low on the yellow. I don't mind that. That's okay. What that's doing is it's adding variety. So there's a little bit there where I can see a robin and some holly. Sorry, Mr. Robin and Holly, you're going to go bye-byes. Okay, I think I'm at the point where I just want to blend that so it's a little bit smoother than it was before. There's a little bit more with the holly on it there. That holly can go away. So, right, am I in shot? I'm probably not in shot. I do apologise. I keep pulling it closer to me to work on and forgetting about you being there. That's very rude of me, and I apologise. So, right, I think that will be okay, actually, because I know we've got other things going on to here. And that's probably not the last time I sponge colour on. Right, I'm going to leave that sponge by that white, although I am going to clean up that little bit of yellow because over time that's just going to dry out anyway. So where are we up to? Right, so I've got some really nice things going on here. I've got the circles. I think I want to save the upper details for later. Actually, I'm wondering. I was going to add circles into this, and I'm wondering whether putting some circles into the background in white might be a nice thing to do. Let's just add a little more white to this. Let's move my sponge so I don't knock it out of the way. Where's my scraper? And I'm just going to smooth this paint out a bit. Hopefully, can you see me? You can see me barely, so I'll move it in just slightly. So I'm just going to smooth the paint out a bit, because what I'm going to do is I'm taking, must have been a roll, maybe a cash register roll or something. It's quite thick, and I'm just going to come in and I'm going to add pieces onto here just to add a little bit of something. A little bit up there and a bit there. Right. Something I'm going to do after this, which is something that I like to do but isn't essential, is I'm going to take a bit of tissue paper and I'm actually going to blot off the excess. And by doing this, I'm actually smearing out the paint a little bit. See, so it's not as dominant. I'm going to use a separate piece of tissue paper every time I do the blotting off, because otherwise, every time I put the tissue paper down, guess what? It's going to restamp any of the wet paint that it's got on it. And this also aids in drying time as well. I just like the fact that it really knocks back the colour and blends it into other areas. See if I can just catch that little bit on the other edge there. So let's put these bits of tissue paper to one side. All my tissue paper ends up in recycling for collage pieces anyway. So as you can see, by pressing them down, it's almost forced them into the background. And I love that. So right, let's put that back by there. Actually, do I want... Maybe I want a few of the white streaks in it. If you use your card quite flat, you'll get this mottled effect, which I like the look of that when that happens. It's almost like corrosion. It depends, of course, on the look you're going for. But as I said before, things will just get pushed further and further into the background. And one thing I really, really love about gel printing, and it's something I do a lot, is I like the layers. I like for someone to actually have to look into one of my creations, to actually look into it, to see all the detail. I find that very interesting, and I think it's probably why I like a lot of abstract art, because you have to stand there and actually think about what you're looking at. I also like abstract because the artist has given you permission to interpret it as you see fit. So, not that I need permission, but that's a nice thing to think about. So here we go. So we've got this going on. Right. I think at this point I would like to add some metallics. And I'm wondering which of the... Now, I was going to use this on here, but as we seem to have a teardrop and a rounded theme, I think I'm not going to use this. I was also going to use this, and I think I am going to use this, but I'm probably going to use it just the smaller areas a little bit later on. But the next thing is going to be dots, or pearls, or bubbles, or whatever you want to call it. As you can see, this is probably one of my most used stencils, and I'm thinking of recreating this stencil for PM Artist Studio, because I mean, there's so much build-up of paint on here, and when do you not need dots? So I think, actually, that's another one. I need to put on my to-do list to get that sorted, because I could do with a better grade one. This was some really flimsy Mylar, and I know their stencils are made out of 74 pound UPO, which is a lot more resistant. So I think this is on the make list. I must leave that out. Right, I think this is going to be slightly damp to touch. So I'm going to come in now, and I'm going to do the hairdryer thing again, and then we're going to pull forward one of the colours from the background. I've got a feeling it's probably going to be either teal, or I might add a darker colour to this, like a magenta or a crimson or something. So bear with me, going to stop for 2 seconds again, and I'll be back. So pretty much dry now, definitely dry to the touch. Now, as I was doing this, I noticed that this area here, to me, looks slightly purplish. And I thought, you know what? I was going to add teal, or I was going to bring one of the colours forward, but I think I'd quite like to add like a purple or a lavender or something to this. And I've spotted in my stash these two colours. This is called Wild Violet, and this is just called Wild Orchid. Well, they're both wild. Let's put them on here. I'm going to do the combination of... Sorry, I'm shaking the bottles, which is why my voice sounds a bit wibbly. So I'm going to do a combination of the two colours as before. Not sure whether you're going to be able to see the paint over here. I'm trying to keep it within shot, but one thing about this iPad is the iPad videos wider than I can see. So I know that I can only see to... where am I? I can only see to here, but I know you can see to here. I can only see to here, but I think you can see to here. Do you see what I mean? So I'm trying to guesswork myself. Right, I started in that corner. I don't want to start in that corner again. So let's just pop this on here. Again, don't want to overpower everything, so I'm going to come in with the paler colour, which is... I think it was Wild Orchid we said that was, the lighter one. Just going to come in, put some of the Wild Orchid down, pick up the merest little touch of the darker one, and just catch some of those circles, just so that some of them are darker within the arrangement of circles. Again, we're not worried that they're perfect, because that's not what I'm going for. This is looking very pretty. I'm quite happy with this. It's very... I don't want to say feminine, because that's quite sexist. Delicate. I struggle sometimes with delicate stuff. Delicate and subtle is quite difficult for me to create within my art pieces, because I like bold, bright colours. I like drama. I like I like dynamic designs, but I'm liking this. This is going very, very well. A little bit there. And as you may have noticed, I work in threes. So guess what? We're doing another patch here. And I think I'm going to do a patch that comes this way, this direction. Can you see? Yes, you can. Right, let's get some of the light stuff in. I'm going to start there and just literally not do a stripe, but focus in this direction so I've got something more horizontal and vertical. Again, coming in with some of these. Some of the different colours, or shades or tones, or different sections of wild. Let's put different sections of wild on the table, because that's kind of where I'm going with this. I might just put a bit of the pale over the top of some of these, because I don't want it to be so dramatic that that will pull the focus, which is not my intent. So what have we got? Let's put that one over there to dry. I'm really loving this. I like this bit really. I'm wondering, I think this would be too much. And you know, guys, it's okay to change your minds. I think we're almost there with this, and I don't really want to muck it up, because it looks beautiful as far as I'm concerned. Right, need to clean off this here of the excess paint. Not the larger amounts, but the smaller amounts. The bits that are smeared are going to dry anyway. So, where are we up to? Right. There are a couple of things I want to do on here. I also want to add some metallics to this as well. I want to put some lines on here. Pretty much because I also put some lines on things. But I don't want to ruin this, because this is looking really, really good. I do think I want to add some either copper or gold. Now if I add copper, where's my copper gone? Where are you, Mr. Copper? I've lost the copper, guys. Where did I put it? There it is. So that's what copper would look next to it. What colour is that? And that's what gold... I'm torn. Is that another copper? That's another copper. This is nearly out, so that's why that one's there. I do have other golds, but that one's a bit greeny. What's this one? Champagne. Champagne might be okay. Let's put some champagne on there, and then maybe put some of this over the top of the champagne. There's nothing like experimenting on a project for someone else, is there? So just give this a really good shade. I found that this colour, this Americana multi-surface metallic, the champagne separates into sort of a gluey gel-like consistency, so I'm always just a little bit nervous of it. Now, that will be enough of that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do what I did before. I'm going to smear it out onto my card, and I'm going to lay it almost flat just to catch areas. Now it is, I believe, a transparent, so I'm okay with that. But up here, I don't want to ruin this area because I like that area. I think a little bit in the middle might not go amiss. And a little bit down there. So let's see where we're up to. So we've got areas of shine, but when you look at it, they're not shiny, if that makes sense. Right, I'm now going to come in. I'm going to put some of this copper in. Hopefully I can get some copper out of here. That should be okay. There you go. Right, I'm going to be really cautious here because this is where it could all go belly up. So I'm just smearing a bit on the back of here and almost flat, just dragging it. And don't ask me how I know where to put it. I don't know. It's very instinctual. I don't mind a bit over the top of the other metallic. I also have to keep reminding myself this is going to be cut up into 8 different tags. So I'm not looking at the mass, I'm looking at the detail. Right, I think we need to stop there because I could seriously go overboard with this. Just a bit of that back off some of those areas because we're not finished yet, so I don't want it to be overly dominant. Okay, that's fine. I'm liking what I'm seeing there. So right, that can sit there actually because I can work with that. So question is, my instinct is telling me to put a little bit of light back into this before I do the final additions of darker stuff on this. And I do actually have white here, so I'm going to come in just with a little bit of paleness, just bouncing or pouncing the colour on again, just to push things into the background. As you see, by overlapping areas of detail, things recede into the background, which is lovely. It gives dimension. It gives you something to look into. Now, I was going to put more circles into this, and the circles would actually have been made with a thinner, basically I was going to use, this is the top of a Pringles lid, and I've cut a little tab so I can actually pick it up, and I was thinking bigger circles, but I think that's going to be wrong. I think I'm not going to do that. I do have 2 more things I want to do, so I think that's going to be next. Right, I'm going to use corrugated card. This is a strip of corrugated card. You've seen I use it a lot. I'm going to turn this around so that all those bits of paint are on the other side, so I don't go sticking my arm in it. Now, this is where I want to start adding the real punch of drama into this. Now, that can come off. I'm thinking of doing white. So let's come back in with some white. And again, I'm going to use my card to just smear it out a bit because it'll pick up better if it's smeared out. Right, and what I'm doing is I'm holding this so it's a teardrop shape and pressing it down into this so it gets some on there. And then I'm just going to bring in areas. Again, I'm working on instinct. I don't have a game plan, I'm just doing. So liking that, I've got one more thing I want to do and then we're done. Right, this, I need to somehow scrape this so I can save it for later. There we go, I'll get back to that in a little while. So now we're looking at the last punch of colour. Now, I have decisions to make here. I can go really dramatic and add black. I could go and put the teal into here. I wonder, that actually sounds better to me, the teal than the black. I think we're going to go with that teal again. This is dark teal. Only because I think black would be overly dramatic, and I don't want to be overly dramatic on this. I just want to make it right. So again, let's put some of this down. Now what I'm going to be using, you've probably seen me use it before. This is plastic mesh that I picked up in my local craft store. I'm still unsure what it's supposed to be for. Maybe rug making, maybe children's cross stitch. I'm not sure. I love it. I just bought this size, which is bigger than A4, and I use it all the time and give it a good wipe and it'll last me probably the rest of my life. So Charlotte, I hope you like this stage. And you're enjoying this as well. I will obviously be putting the link to Carol's website in. So I'm just going to put this down, move it around a little bit, and then I'm going to place it over, press down. And what it'll do is that, and I love that. And I'm looking for areas that are a little bit sparse. And I think that's probably a little bit sparse right in there. Because remember, this is different tags. It's not an overall background. Maybe just a little bit there. And a little bit there. And maybe just a little bit there. Talk about Mr. Indecision. So let me lift that up so you can see it. Right, as you can see, it's all done on. I think we's done. I'm not doing any more to that. I think I want to leave that exactly as it is. But what I do need to do now is I need to clear all the decks off. I need to use up this old paint. I need to let this dry. So here we are, total cleanup happened, utilise the spare paint. Got most of it off my hands. This is all nice and dry. It feels dry all the way through because it's not cool on the back. Fresh cutting mat. Let's get the old guillotine out. We need to cut this into tags now. Okay. Cutting it in any way is going to give me different tags. I know that. I just need to think, is there anything specific that I want to think about? So if I think that's the top half, that's the bottom half, that's quite good. That will give me a plain tag and a plain tag and a plain tag. If I cut it this way, I'm going to have that a bit. I think I'm going to go this way, to be honest. Now, I'm going to turn this upside down to cut, purely because I like the surprise as well as everyone else does. So I know that needs to be there. So I'm going to turn it this way to cut this into 6 inches, because it's a 12 by 12, obviously. And I'm going to move this over a bit, actually. Move this over so I can cut this at 6. And then we'll put the angles on it. So that's the height of our tags. So now I'm going to do 3-inch tags, because that's what I thought when I initially did this. I wanted to make 3-inch tags. So that's one tag. Now, of course, if you're doing this and not cutting them into tags, you could obviously leave it as a background. You could do journaling cards out of this, because that's a reasonable size for a journaling card. Or you can cut it any which way you want, actually. I mean, if you're doing a mass make, you could actually create a whole load of ATCs very quickly by cutting it into 2.5s and 3.5s. And you'd probably have little offcuts as well that you could utilise in other ways. So, just get this 3-inch. If I was wise, I'd start from that end, wouldn't I? And cut 3 inches off, move it along through it. But that's not. I'm not good at math, guys. My brain. I know it's a 12, 9, 6, and 3 cut, but I think we all stay with what we're comfortable with. This is what I'm comfortable with. Right. Let's get rid of the old guillotine. Now, I'm going to turn these over, and then I'm going to cut the angles on them afterwards, because once I can see them, I could then figure out what's up and what's down. So the first one, ooh, that's nice. See, to me, that's the right orientation for that. Obviously, everyone have the different choices. Next one, oh, I like that too. See, to me, that just looks top heavy. So to me, this would have to be the bottom of the tag, because then I put a feature into it. That's nice. Oh, I'm unsure about that. I think it's going to be that way on. I think that way on. Oh, this one's a bit, doesn't matter which way on it is, does it? I quite like the darker area at the bottom. Ooh, do I save the teal or do I save the brown? I think I'm going to make it that way on. Ooh, to me, that's instantly the bottom. And that's instantly the bottom. Okay, right. So time to cut the angles. Okay, pair of scissors. Now, this little gadget I made myself, It's made out of plastic. If you want to see how I made this for cutting the angles on my tags, I'll put the link in the description box, where I'll be putting the link for Oak House Journals with Carol Parker anyway. So just know it's down there. The way you use it is you line up the sides and then you cut the edge off. I just need to make sure that want to know what size edge or corner I want. I quite like the one I did originally, actually. So let's just snip the edges off these. Now, I'm not going to put holes in these, Charlotte. I'm going to let that decision be yours, because not all tags have to have ribbon through them or needs to have a hole in it for a ribbon or a slot or anything. So I'm going to let you be the creator of that bit, because these are meant to be tag bases. Therefore, the intention is that they're further decorated, although you don't need to. To be honest, I think these tags look gorgeous as they are. However, your choice. Absolutely. It was a gift from me to you, so I would like you to actually, when you've done them, share a picture and tag me in with the picture so I can see what you ended up doing with them, or not. If you decide not to, equally good with me. There are many times, if I've got a decorated journal, I will not decorate the tags, because I like the journal to speak for itself. And a tag is basically, for me, it's a place I write on the back of. And sometimes just that little pop of colour or that little bit of design on a page is enough. Not everything needs to be overly decorated in my books. Sorry, in my journals. And obviously, for anyone else who's doing this, if you're doing it before Christmas, these make great gift tags for presents. You can also take one of these and actually stick it onto the front of a greetings card and then tuck something in behind it. So maybe glue it on 3 sides and then make it a side pocket or a side tuck. It's a great way to hide little messages in things. So almost, I think we've only got 1 left to do. No, 2. I lied to you. Absolutely lied to you. So only you and I know that this was actually a Christmas tag swapped with Christmas paper or Christmas card, because that's what this started out as. But obviously these tags can now be used year round, and I quite like the thought of them being used for a spring or a summer journal, or a spring or a summer something. Right, all of those got. Remember, that's the instructions on how I did that are in the description box. Let's just clear off all these little bits, because there's no way I'm keeping those, guys. There's a point at which things have to be thrown away. So let's take one final look at these tags, and it's sadly time to say goodbye. So, loving that. I love this colour scheme. I need to make a note of this one. Love that. Oh, come on, start. I like the pop of magenta. See, so they're all of the same family, should we say. But, I mean, that doesn't look exactly like that. So those 2 tags could go together. Those 2 could go together in a journal. I feel like a casino dealer at the moment. Again, that could go with that or that. But then, because the stripes, it could also go into that one. Again, loving it. And see, I did manage to get some without the dots in. And that's got everything in it. So let's just put those in shot just to make sure they are in shot, which is my hope. So where's the ones that weren't dotty? So there you go. That's non-dotty. That's non-dotty. So see, so we've got an array of. If you wanted to have 4 and 4, if you put an embellishment over there, that could join the non-dotty team. So non-dotty team. What the heck am I talking about? Okay, Charlotte, I hope you love these when you receive them. And I hope you love these just as well. These are the ones that are a gift from me to you. Carol Parker from Oak House Journals, thank you so much for inviting me to do this. This was fun. My only regret is that there just wasn't the time to get them to Charlotte for Christmas. But that was way beyond my control. So anyway, so Charlotte will have a selection of tag backgrounds now for the whole year round. So all that needs for me to say now is goodbye. So I'm Ceri the Crafter. That's Ceri the Crafter. Until next time. Bye-bye now.